Right guys, this is a rebuild with a difference. After England's abysmal showing in the Nations League, I decided to rebuild a nation, and by that I mean I've taken charge of England to see if I can do what potentially Gareth Southgate may not be able to do. So, using an updated database, jumping into the game on the 30th of May 2022, we're ready for England's Nations League campaign. Now, obviously, throughout the course of this, the plan is to do 10 years as England manager, and the idea will be we'll check in and around the major tournaments. I'm not going to bore you guys with the qualification. We'll talk about how the qualification campaign went and how it got on as we've picked our squad going into whatever the big tournament is going to be. So we are about to jump in as we are going to play in the Uefa Nations League. Now, our Nations League is different in game to obviously what England played in real life. We are against the Czech Republic, France and Wales, rather than Hungary, Germany and France as well. So we are going to try Hungary, France and Italy. Italy? I can't remember. I didn't watch any of the games. It's the Nations League, but I know England were bad. So we are obviously in Group A. And these are the teams that we are going to face. Obviously, we've got the World Cup coming up and the UEFA World Cup UEFA qualifying section. But we've already qualified for the World Cup, so we don't need to worry about that before the Euros kicks in. Now, obviously, in terms of our schedule, we've played a couple of friendlies again in game that obviously wasn't what was set up here. So then obviously we go ahead in our Nations League. Obviously we've got a couple group games here and then a couple in September. We're going to simulate and see how we get on at the end of this Nations League before we go into the World Cup and the World Cup squad for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. So let's simulate this first section to find out how the Nations League gets on and to see if potentially I'm a little bit better than Gareth Southgate. So guys, let's talk Nations League. Now, things went pretty well in our group. Obviously, we stayed unbeaten throughout the course of the, I'm going to say season, because it kind of was done over the course of 1 year. So we managed to beat the Czech Republic 3-2 away in our first game, in our debut as England manager. Then we took on Wales at Wembley, beat them 6-1. Then we beat France 1-0 away at the Stade de France. Then we beat the Czech Republic back at Wembley 5-0. Now, we also drew with Wales. These were the ones later on in the year. We drew with Wales 1-1 away at the Principality, which is my closest big stadium, and then we actually beat France at home with Tammy Abraham securing a hat-trick. Now, I know I didn't mention, should I say, what we were going to be doing. This is the tactic that I've gone for. It is called the Three Lions. Now, the main reason this is called the Three Lions is because it was a variant of 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 Nice to Meet You. If you've not watched that video where we put all of 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪's tactics together in one league just to see how they all get on against each other, Nice to Meet You came out on top. Now, that was this shape, and it's very similar to what I feel England probably should be playing. So we've tweaked it minutely to make it a little bit more applicable to England. So we're going to have a sweeper keeper in goal, 3 central defenders, because I know Southgate likes that. I also like that. It's what I use in PvP and stuff like that. So we've got 2 wing backs on either side, then 3 central midfielders, 1 as a deep line playmaker, kind of a bit more of a facilitator, someone who's going to sit a little bit deeper, 2 central midfielders on attack either side. I think these are perfect roles for the likes of Jack Grealish and Phil Foden and stuff like that. And then the 2 guys up top, an advanced forward and a deep line forward. I'm hoping the deep line forward gets the best out of this man here, Harry Kane. Now, I know people like Diz and that have struggled to get the best out of Harry Kane in drafts. I am one of those people as well. I'm hoping today I can figure out how to get the best out of Harry Kane. So obviously this is the tactic that we are going to do going into our World Cup. Now, our World Cup has been drawn. We are in Group F. So if we go on to the World Cup, we are in a group with Denmark, Morocco and South Korea. Now, this is actually a little bit different from England's group in real life, but ultimately we could come up against exactly the same people. So we've got a little bit of time to go through until we get to picking the squad for the World Cup, so I can make some decisions as to who we are going to put on that plane to Qatar. So let's simulate forward until we get to that squad selection. I can talk to you about the team that is going to bring that trophy home. So I've jumped forward into November and we are 1 day away from opening our World Cup campaign against Denmark. Now, obviously we have some selection issues. We had a couple of injuries. So this is the team to take the title home. Now, obviously we need 3 goalkeepers and we're playing a system with no wingers. So I was very skeptical about including wingers. I kind of wanted wingers that could either play in central midfield or play up front. So that's kind of where I was going with this. So certain players you're probably not going to see a huge amount of in this rebuild. So we've got the 3 goalkeepers of Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope and Aaron Ramsdale. I will be playing Ramsdale in goal. Then we've got the following defenders: Harry Maguire, John Stones, Tomori, Kyle Walker, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Declan Rice. He's still technically classed as a defender because he can play centre-back. Reece James, Benjamin White, Luke Shaw, Ben Chilwell. They are our defenders. Then moving forward into the midfielders, we got James Ward-Prowse, Jude Bellingham, Raheem Sterling, Jack Grealish, Marcus Rashford, Jaden Sancho and Phil Foden. And then the 3 that are actually listed as strikers are Harry Kane, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Tammy Abraham. Now, nothing severe has happened in terms of transfers with all these guys here, other than the fact that Tomori is now a Newcastle player. So in terms of our tactic and the team going into this World Cup without restriction, this is our best 11 according to the game. So we're going to run Ramsdale in goal, Stones, Reece James as a centre-back. If I were probably going to do it, I would probably do this maybe, or play Harry Maguire.
Harry Maguire
It's the other centre-back. I know, don't crucify me, comment section. But this is, I quite like this. It's very mobile. We've seen Kyle Walker play in this position before. I think Reece James can very much play in this position. So let's run this. So we're going to have Ramsdale in goal, Trent as the right-handed wing-back, James, Stones, Tomori. Then we're going to have Chilwell to complete the back 5. Then we're going to have Foden, Grealish and Rice. I'm probably going to switch those 2 around, have Declan Rice as the sort of deeper one of the 2, and then Foden and Grealish running forward to support the attacks, where we will find Tammy Abraham and obviously Harry Kane. Now, I'm actually quite happy with this squad. I think we've got a decent amount of depth. Obviously, players like Sterling and stuff like that are probably going to struggle potentially to get into the team. Him, Sancho, stuff like that. Potentially because we don't really have spots for them. I mean, they can play in certain positions, but not fully convincingly. So I'm hoping we can go forward and actually bring home this World Cup. Now, obviously, I did mention that we are in a group with Denmark, South Korea and Morocco. So what we are going to do actually, guys, is we are going to have a look and we are going to see when, not stages, where am I looking? Rules, when the World Cup ends. So that's the 18th of December. Fingers crossed we can bring home a trophy for Christmas in our first international tournament. I'm going to simulate until the World Cup is over, and then we'll come back and see how we got on. Guys, we've only gone and won the bloody World Cup. I cannot believe what has happened here and our run to the trophy. If this happens in Qatar in November, December, I will be ecstatic. So we got through our group, then we take on Sweden in that second knockout round. We beat them 3-0 and advance into the quarters. We beat then Croatia, a team that we've actually struggled with recently in England colours. Then we move into the semi-finals, and I don't know what happened here, but we absolutely annihilated Spain 4-0 before beating the old rivals Germany in the final on penalties after a 1-1 draw. So if we jump into the schedule super quick, we have absolutely annihilated our group. We beat Denmark 7-1 in the opener of the World Cup, absolutely dominating them. Harry Kane scoring a hat-trick amongst a few goals from a few others. We then take on South Korea, and Jack Grealish scores a brace, as does Harry Kane. Then in that final group game, we take on Morocco, and we win 5-0 with Marcus Rashford scoring all 5 goals. So then obviously we go into the knockouts. Tammy Abraham with a double against Sweden. He scored as well against Croatia to open the scoring, which is nice to see. Then we beat Spain 4-0. Tomori, Rashford and a brace from Harry Kane, including another penalty, is enough to book our place into this World Cup final, which we are going to expand. We are going to watch the goals. We are going to see what happens. So we take the lead through Tomori. Now, This is a man who I should believe should be on the plane. Obviously played very well for AC Milan this year, won the league there. Reece James with the delivery, and Tomori's there to head home at the far post. Him and John Stones were both there vying for that opportunity. Timo Werner then scores a penalty in the 82nd minute to make it 1-1, and then we go to penalties. Harry Kane starts the first one and slots it. Timo Werner, who scored one in the game, scores as well. Looking at things at the top of the screen, looks like we've got a few penalties here. Tammy Abraham scores from the spot. Over to Marco Reus, the Dortmund man. Again, does the same. There's a few here until we miss a few, guys. John Stones scores. Centre-back taking a penalty. You don't see this too much. Philip Max for the Germans. Again, Ramsdale goes the wrong way. Disappointing here. Phil Foden steps up. He slots from that penalty spot. I believe this is Neuer in goal. Jamal Musiala scores as well. Then we got to be getting into the ones who miss sooner rather than later, as Trent scores his penalty. Joshua Kimmich is up next for the Germans. Ramsdale again going the wrong way. Jack Grealish steps up for England, and his penalty is saved by Manuel Neuer. James Ward-Prowse. Hold on, what happened here? Who missed? What? Hold on, what happened? Jack Grealish missed. Emre Can missed for Germany. Ward-Prowse scored, and then Sula must have missed the penalty, the all-decisive penalty for Germany, meaning that England win the World Cup in 2022, which I think would be possible, but an interesting achievement to do it. I don't think it would happen in this particular format. I mean, we only conceded 2 goals in the whole tournament, one against Denmark and one against Germany. Other than that, complete and utter shutout. I don't see that happening. I know Southgate does play this sort of defensive style of football in tournaments, which I personally don't mind. Obviously, it is a bit boring, but the victories are all that matters. We are going to progress then. Obviously, we've got some qualifiers for the Euros to come up, and then we also do have the Nations League semi-final, where we take on Germany again in a repeat of the World Cup final. We're going to jump forward until the Nations League is over. We're not going to watch the final of it or anything like that, but we'll jump forward to see how we get on. Nations League, not our forte, it would appear. We took on Germany in the semi-finals at Bramall Lane as well, so football returning to Sheffield, England football, and we lost 3-0. I mean, all importantly, the World Cup game was the one that we needed to win, and we lost 3-0 in the Nations League, so I'm not actually too disappointed by it. We then take on Portugal in the 3rd place playoff, and we lose this one as well, also at Bramall Lane. João Paulina with the goal, meaning that we don't get anything to show for our Nations League campaign. In terms of some of the qualifying for the Euros, though, we have had 2 games so far. We took on Cyprus away. That one's for you, Jace. We beat them 2-0, and then we took on Wales at Wembley, and well, look at the score, 7-1. Tammy Abraham with 2, Marcus Rashford with 3. It looks like we will be qualifying for the Euros. Obviously, we are currently 2nd in our group, but Ukraine have played 4-1-4. We've played 2-1-2. So I'd like to think that we will progress. Obviously, playing in the Nations League kind of meant that we were behind the 8 ball with some of these games. I'd like to think that we are going to qualify for the Euros in 2024. So let's advance until we pick that squad if we qualify. And qualify for the Euros we did. Now, I'm going to talk about our run in the qualification campaign so far. So obviously we beat Cyprus and we beat Wales, which I spoke about in the last section. Then we beat Latvia, Ukraine, Cyprus, Wales again, Latvia, and then Ukraine again. So we did come out on top of qualification group A. We qualify 8 victories out of 8, 37 goals scored, just the 3 goals conceded, and we qualify in alongside Ukraine, who only lost the 2 games to us and beat everybody else. So fair play to Ukraine. They qualify for the Euros. Going into the Euros, though, we are in a group with Switzerland, Portugal, and Greece. We are in Group D, which is going to be interesting to see how we get on. In terms of the squad that we have picked again for this tournament, if we arrange by goalkeepers first, we do kind of have very similar names, I guess. that are starting to crop up in the year 2024. No new gens have made it into the teams just yet, but we've got our three goalkeepers are Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale and Etienne Green, obviously the young goalkeeper who comes out of Saint Etienne in France. Then we have Tomori, Stones, Chalobah, Trent, Declan Rice, Reece James, Bukayo Saka's in the squad now as more of a utility man, Joe Gomez and Ben Chilwell. Moving into the midfielders, we have Jordan Henderson, James Ward-Prowse, Calvin Phillips, Jude Bellingham, Raheem Sterling, Jack Grealish, Marcus Rashford and Phil Foden. And the same front three again, guys: Harry Kane, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Tammy Abraham. This is the team that we are going to be taking in, and if we quick pick without restriction, this is what Steve Holland thinks is our best team. So Ramsdale, Tomori, James, Stones, Trent, Chilwell, Foden, Rice, Grealish, Kane, Tammy Abraham. This is basically the team that won us the World Cup, so I'm hoping it can bring us home another tournament. In terms of the competition, I don't think... Do you get any odds or anything like that? You don't. So fingers crossed we can kind of pick it up. Obviously, beaten finalists in the 2021 final at Wembley. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can win it. Obviously, it was ourselves versus Germany in that World Cup final. And this Euros, the 2024 Euros, is being held in Germany. So fingers crossed we can be the champions of Europe and the champions of the world. Looks like we are going two competitions that we've entered so far, two competitions that we have won. So we had Switzerland, Portugal and Greece in our group. We beat the Swiss 4-0 at the Olympiastadion in Berlin to get the job done there. 2 goals for Phil Foden, 1 for Jack Grealish and 1 for Ben Chilwell. We then take on Portugal in our second game. Jude Bellingham scoring in Germany, who'd have thought, and then Harry Kane scoring the decisive winner in the 84th minute. We then take on Greece in our third and final group game. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Tammy Abraham amongst the goals there. Only the 1 goal for Harry Kane in the groups, which is absolutely nuts. I don't know what it is with how we play against Spain or how Spain set up against us, but we absolutely annihilated Spain again in that second knockout round. Phil Foden, Tomori, a hat-trick for Harry Kane, and John Stones really rubbed the salt into the wounds for the Spanish there. We then go into the quarterfinals where we take on Holland and are too strong for Holland. We then score goals with Phil Foden and Raheem Sterling, so there's quite a strong Man City contingent here. Then we go into the semi-finals where we take on Italy at Dortmund Stadium. Romagnoli with an own goal there, Tammy Abraham, and then Harry Kane from the penalty spot, all inside the first half, mean we are too good for Italy, meaning we come up against France in the final here. We get the job done 3-1 in extra time. We're going to watch the goals of it because I think it's kind of important to see the goals, especially when we win these big sort of tournaments. You know what I mean? I think it's quite nice to see how we do get on in these tournaments and how the goals are scored. So we've got Harry Kane driving forward here inside the first 10 minutes. We scored all early in the last Euros final. Square ball to Harry Kane, tucked back, and Jordan Henderson, the Liverpool captain, is there on hand to tap that one in. Obviously, France equalised though. Here comes Ferland Mendy, gets past one into our penalty area. Cross comes over. Nordi Mukiele is going to put it back across, and Tuvan is absolutely completely unmarked there. Defence is an absolute shambles. But we go into extra time after the 1-1 in the 90 minutes. Looks like we score inside the 94th minute here. Bukayo Saka into Phil Foden. Trent Alexander-Arnold over the top to Rashford. That is a lovely little dink from Marcus Rashford. Oh my God, over the French goalkeeper to put us 2-1 into the lead. And then towards the end of the extra time period, it looks like we've scored whilst on the counter-attack. Ball into Chilwell, squared across, and Saka taps it past Big Mike in the French goal. And England are champions of Europe and champions of the world. And looking at the stats, 3.63 XG, 25 shots, 13 on target. Yeah, it's not bad, is it? So then we go into the Nations League again. We're not going to talk about the Nations League. We're just going to skip forward until the end of it because obviously we've got some qualifying and stuff to do as well. So I'll see you after the next Nations League. So obviously, as winners of the European Championship, we have the Euro South American Super Cup. The Super Cup, which we did take on Brazil in that final. Obviously, they won the South American equivalent. We win the Euros, and Declan Rice's goal is the winning factor for us there. So we pick up that trophy as well. Then we go into the Nations League to see if we can get our hands on the Nations League. Obviously, it was very disappointing last time in the Nations League to see how we get on. This time, semi-finalists against Italy, who we were semi-finalists against in the Euros. And Tammy Abraham turns up big with a hat-trick to to guide us through to the Nations League final, where we take on Spain. Now, usually this is hella convincing, but Jude Bellingham scored the decisive goal for us to see us win the Nations League as well. So we hold our hands on every single international trophy that we can possibly get our hands on. We are World Cup holders, we are Euro holders, we are Euro South American Super Cup holders, or whatever that cup competition was called, and we are Nations League holders. We hold all the keys so far. So we're going to simulate a bit more. Obviously, we've got World Cup qualifiers to get through and see how we get on, but ultimately we're doing pretty nicely here as the trophy cabinet is really starting to rack up, guys. I'm really happy with how things are going. We are just 1 point behind Sweden in our World Cup qualifying group, so we'll touch on that when we get to the World Cup, which is the next stop here. I don't even know where this World Cup is due to be held. FIFA World Cup hosts United States, Canada and Mexico. Next stop, North America. Right, we're going into the World Cup. Obviously, it's being hosted by the USA, Canada and Mexico, but this is the World Cup where the groups have been reduced from 4 down to 3, and there are more teams in the World Cup. So we are about to go into World Cup Group D alongside Curacao and Australia. Now, Curacao are currently ranked 75th in the world. Good. And Australia are currently ranked 34th in the world. I don't know, guys. I think this is... I don't know if I like this format. I really don't know. Obviously, the World Cup, we are the holders, so I would love to retain. If we take a look at things, this one goes on until, let's look at the rules. The final is on the 12th of July 2026. And this is the squad to get the job done, I hope. You've had a couple of injury crisis and stuff like that towards when the squad was due to be picked. So we've got a couple of potentially interesting faces in here, but some that you probably would expect to see. So the goalkeepers are Sam Johnston, Jordan Pickford and Aaron Ramsdale. Tomori, a mainstay of my team, John Stones, Chalobah, Trent, Declan Rice, Reece James, Bukayo Saka, Joe Gomez, Ben Chilwell, and James Justin is now in this squad. Obviously, utility player, can play on both sides. Super helpful for World Cup squads. Jordan Henderson, Jude Bellingham, Raheem Sterling, Jack Grealish, Marcus Rashford, Jaden Sancho, Phil Foden, and then the same front three that we've always got, guys. Harry Kane, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Tammy Abraham are rounding things off. I don't actually think a huge amount has changed from when we won the Euros a few years ago. So this is the team running things forward. So we've got Ramsdale in goal, Trent, John Stones, Gomez, Tomori and Saka. Then we've got Bellingham and Foden as the CMs on attack, which I think is just... I love Jude Bellingham in this game. Then we've got Declan Rice as a sitter, Kane and Tammy Abraham. Hopefully we can retain the World Cup. Obviously we are going to simulate until the end of it, so fingers crossed we can go back to back. So were we able to go back to back and retain the World Cup? Yeah, baby, yeah. And we only conceded 1 goal in this entire tournament. So we played a couple of pre-tournament friendlies. We took on Serbia because I'm doing a save with Red Star, and we lost against Serbia, which is crazy. We lost at home to Serbia. Then we took on Uruguay. We beat them 3-0, and then we go into the World Cup. So then we took on Curacao with Tahith Chong scoring the goal against us, but we did win 7-1, so pretty convincing. And this was the only goal that we did concede in the entire tournament. We then took on Australia and we beat them 1-0. Thanks to a Jordan Henderson goal. Then we take on Belgium, beat them 3-0. Foden, Jude Bellingham and Tammy Abraham getting the goals in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That is a filthy looking stadium. I am a big fan. Then we take on Switzerland in the quarterfinals at the MetLife. We beat them 2-0 thanks to Harry Kane and John Stones. Then it's Italy again, 1-0 in the final. Joe Gomez getting the goal at the Rose Bowl. And then we go and take on France in the final. And Trevor Chalobah is the man to score the goal, the all-important World Cup winning goal. I hope it's a set piece. I love set piece goals. Let's load it up and see if it is a set piece goal that manages to oust France and allow us to retain. It is a set piece. Jack Grealish to that far post and Chalobah gets up. That is the joy of having 3 central defenders, guys. We are big at the back. We score a lot of set pieces. Despite them having 3 of their own, we got the job done. No Mbappe? interesting. But we go back to back at the World Cup. We are going to progress again. I feels like I'm kind of flying through this a little bit just to get to the major tournaments again so that we can talk about the squad and any developments and stuff like that. But there's Nations League in between. We'll touch on it. Onto the Euros. Dipping in at the end of the Nations League, and we've done it again, guys. We've done it again. We've managed to retain the Nations League as well. Less enthusiasm for the Nations League, it has to be said. We beat Belgium in the semi-finals 5-1. Chalobah scoring again. Jude Bellingham, Foden, Kane, Tammy Abraham. Simple. So then we take on Germany in the final in Germany. Marcus Rashford with 1 and Tammy Abraham with a hat-trick going into that final, which is absolutely crazy. Tammy, by the way, is now a PSG player in this, and his physicals for a guy who is 6'5", absolutely ludicrous. He likes his big games. He's a consistent performer. Tammy Abraham is just brilliant. If we go into our competitions, though, you can see that we are top of our Euros group, even only after playing 2 games. So I'd imagine that we are going to qualify for the Euros again to see if we can retain that. But not so bad so far. 2 World Cups, a Euros, and 2 Nations Leagues out of 3. Not too bad. Let's move on to the Euros. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, I have absolutely no idea how this has happened, but I have somehow over-simulated and we have gone past, and I've completely missed a European Championship. So we have gone into a Euros and we have retained the Euros. So on the route, we beat Serbia, Bulgaria and Finland in a nice, easy group. We then knocked out Spain in that second knockout round. Then we beat Sweden 3-0 at the Nou Camp. Then we take on Turkey in that semi-final, and then we beat France in the final with Tammy Abraham cancelling out Kylian Mbappe's early goal, and then Marcus Rashford scores in the 94th minute. So I don't really know how this happened, guys. I have no bearing on it. I didn't pick the squad. I just let them play the tactic that I've put in, and it looks like it is a winning tactic, which is not too bad at all. Then we move into 2029. And then we've got the Euro South American Cup, which we retained. We beat Brazil in that one, 2-0. Bellingham and Foden doing that. Then the Nations League finals again. We win in the semis, lose in the finals. Zaniolo, Barella and Vignato with those goals there. Then we go into our World Cup qualifying campaign and World Cup. We were in Group A. Looks like we've won this one as well. We are in Group A. We beat Ecuador 5-0. We beat Japan 5-0. Beat Japan 2-0 with 2 sendings off for them as well. Then we beat Australia in that second knockout round. Tammy Abraham and Marcus Rashford scoring a hat-trick apiece. Then we go in, take on Austria. As the new gens are starting to come in here. Jack O'Hara, yes, I know he's got a real face, but he is a new gen. I'm using Zealand's new gen face pack. He at Manchester United is very good. First new gen that's really made an impact on the team. He has come through. And then, yeah, so we beat, where am I? We beat Turkey in that quarterfinals. Then we beat Belgium in the semi-finals 2-0. Michael Burling with a goal. He's another new gen, which we'll take a look at in a second. Then we get into that final. Bellingham, Tammy Abraham, Declan Rice and Curtis Jones with the goals for England in that final. This is Michael Burling, another centre forward. He is from Blackburn Rovers, a former Newcastle United man, but again, the new gens are starting to creep into this team. So we've won the World Cup again. Now I can apologise for just simulating through and not saving anything, but this tactic's pretty good, isn't it? If you want to get a hold of this tactic, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll pop it into my Discord and then we can get that good stuff going. We've got a few more stops. We've got one more Nations League. We've got one more Euros. I promise I won't simulate over this one. So after the catastrophe of simulating past a Euros and a World Cup, we have managed to stop at the right point in time. We have lost the Nations League final again, losing to Spain after getting our way past Germany. Spain retain in Spain. Both the games were played in Sevilla, and we beat Germany 3-2 and then lose 3-1 to Spain in Sevilla. Jeremy Pino, Brahim Diaz and Ansu Fati with the goals for Spain. So Spain do have these talents coming through as well. And we do have a Euros to qualify for. That is the last stop on this run to see if we can retain the Euros. We have been absolutely exceptional as England manager, as you probably would expect. We are one of the best nations in the world anyway. It's just having the right sort of system to set up with the right players that we've got and all of that good stuff. So let's jump forward until I've picked a squad for the Euros, because there's definitely going to be some new faces in here, some new gens that we're going to need to talk about. So, qualification for this final Euros. The year is 2032 and we are talking European Championship football. We are in a group with Ireland. Ireland have qualified, fair play. We are in a group with Slovakia and France. We are in European Championship Group C. Let's talk this squad. So, in the goalkeepers positions, we've got Dean Henderson, Aaron Ramsdale, and Joe Bursick. They have come through. In the defensive positions, we've got 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪. Now, this is a young guy coming out of Palace. He looks pretty darn good, to be honest, for a player that I've not used before. Looks like with the game time, he can turn into a threat. Tomori, then we've got this guy here, 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪. 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 is how I'm going to say this guy's name. He's come out of Celtic, is now a West Ham player, but another really strong fullback for us in this team. We are absolutely stacked at fullback in a position that England were already very good at. Chalobah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Declan Rice, Reece James, Bukayo Saka, James Justin. This is Jack O'Hara now. He is looking exceptional, this guy. Like, the physicals on this man is just next level. Playing for Manchester United. Then we've got this guy, Christian Oladipo. He is a Chelsea player, but another one coming out of Crystal Palace. A very solid central defender, 6'1", really nice physicals as well on the guy there. Then we move forward into the midfield. Jude Bellingham, Alfie Devine, Curtis Jones, Steve Howard. Here is another one. He is a Newcastle United player. He came out of Derby County, but again looks very, very good. I like his mentals. Again, another physical beast. It looks like all of these new gens are physical monsters. Then we've got Jaden Sancho in the squad, Phil Foden, Michael Burling, and Tammy Abraham. Now, Burling is actually getting a little bit better now, especially since he's been purchased by Manchester City. Last time we checked in, he was a Blackburn Rovers player. So, hopefully, some of these new gens and some of these defenders can fire us through to another Euros, fingers crossed. So the final stop on this journey is here. We are talking Euros and seeing if we can retain. But before we get into things, guys, if you are still here, you are still watching this rebuild, I know it's a little bit of a longer one and it seems like a bit of a weird one because we've been so successful right off the rip, but we are England manager. So please comment down below if you are still here. It's coming home. Fingers crossed it does in Qatar, but let me know if you're still here down in that comment section by saying it's coming home. Speaking of coming home, we won the Euros again. Who'd have thought? We beat Ireland 1-0 thanks to a Michael Burling goal. Declan Rice gets sent off against Ireland. Probably, maybe on purpose, actually. Maybe they wind him up about declaring for Ireland before coming to play for England. Then we beat Slovakia 3-0. Tammy Abraham, Reece James, Marcus Rashford on the score sheet there at Celtic Park. Then we take on France. We beat them 2-1. We score. Tammy Abraham. Kylian Mbappe equalises. Then Tammy Abraham scores again to send us through unbeaten out of Group C. Then we take on Switzerland. We beat them 2-0. Trent and Reece, the fullbacks, on point at the Cardiff City Stadium. Then we take on Scotland, annoyingly at Ibrox, but we get the job done. 2-1. Rashford and 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 get the goals. And then this guy, Leon Clark, comes through with the goals. With the goal for Scotland, but it wasn't good enough. Then we take on Turkey at the Principality. Tammy Abraham and Michael Burling on the score sheet again. And then we beat France in that final. Out of the same group, we both get to the final. Burling, Jack O'Hara, and 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 on the score sheet, putting France to bed yet again. So if we go on to the nation, you can kind of see here, if we go on to our overview, what we have done. So we started off as we were the fourth best team in the world. And then after winning that World Cup, we went straight to the top, and we have been the best team in the world ever since. In terms of the World Cups, we won the 2022, 2026 and 2030 World Cups as the manager of England. We picked up 3 European Championships as well, 24, 26 and 32. 2 Euro South American Super Cups in 2025 and 2029, 2 Nations League titles out of a potential 4, so we won in 2025 and 2027. There's also been some under 21 championships as well. Obviously I set up the youth levels to use the same tactic as well, and they won the under 21 Euros Uefa Championship, in 23 and 27, which is really, really nice. And we've won a couple of under 19 championships as well. Under 17s I wasn't able to set, and under 20s we've won as well. So this tactic is very, very good. We've been incredibly clinical as England manager, and if you guys would like to take over this save and you know, I was going to say take England to the next level, but I think you may struggle. Just keep England as the best nation in the world. And obviously there are some unbelievable new gens coming through here. So fingers crossed you could take over and see some of those names develop. If you do want to, this save will be posted in my Discord server. There will be a link to that at the top of the description for this video, and hopefully I can see you guys in there as well, chatting amongst our community of over 2,500. If you do like the rebuilds, check out this playlist. It's got all of the rebuilds that we have done in the entire FM22 game cycle, and if you want to see me do a rebuild of your team, let me know down in that comment section. Until next time guys, take care, and I'll see you soon.